and welcome to a very special live stream on Rambling Canuck. With me today is Joseph Patrick from the other
From
side
the
of the
future.
globe. Yeah, from the future.
From the
And
man
it's what,
from the
9
future.
o'clock there tonight? It's what, 9 o'clock there? And also joining us, Stone Loki from Loki's Mornings of Mischief. Very glad to have both of you. Today we're going to discuss a little bit of a hot button topic that has kind of been brushed under the carpet, but could be brought to the forefront, I think. And Joseph and I were talking before we went live about how that could be interestingly done. First of all, I'll take a quick spin through chat. We have Dadman Walking, welcome. We have Jordan. We have Mr. CCDV, of course. Mary's Game Room, my love, welcome. Mr. CCDV and I had a very interesting conversation about an hour ago, so over on History with R&R. Also, welcome Professor Brainy Specs. So today's topic is going to be, as the title of this live stream says, are we looking at World War III or just smoke? And where we're talking about is the Ukraine. Yay. And the interesting politics and interesting, you might as well say propaganda. And we're going to look at just how much of a threat are we really under and what this could be used as in our opinions. I want to stress that some of what will be said today will be opinions. And I want to stress that to the max. This is not where we're sitting there and we're going word for word on the latest update on Google, what the things. This is a conversation about what we know to be in our opinion. So I wanted to get that out right away. Joseph lives in Slovakia, which is right on the border of the Ukraine. So I think it's important that it's not just me sitting up here from Canada dictating what, is going on in his region. So I thought it was fair that we have Joseph on to give an on-ground, as close to we can, boots on the ground perspective. And I think we miss that a lot in our Western news cycle. We don't get a lot of voices from that region. We get a lot of voices from within our own little world. Loki also said that he would join us, and I greatly appreciate that. So I'm going to go, and I guess we'll let Loki and Joseph answer and we'll get more in depth, but do each of you think that this is, as I put it to one person today, do you think that the Ukraine is the modern day Poland? Do you think this is the hard line? That if, and I stress if, Russian tanks were to roll and they were to go into Ukraine, do you think that this would be the hard line? Do you think that this would cause World War III, or would this be another concession? I'll start with Joseph.
I will go, and thank you very much for inviting me to the stream. And as you mentioned, it's not only like opinion, but with my next statement, I'm going to go into a little bit the conspiracy area,
okay.
Right? With and one of those conspiracies that are floating around is basically that Putin would like to have back the USSR, or the zone of influence of the former Eastern Bloc influence that they basically had after World War II ended, and there were the zones of influence basically with the hard line at Germany, and basically everything eastern from Germany was under the Russian influence, and everything to the west was under the United States influence and Britain, basically. And when you think about it, where Putin comes from, being an ex-KGB agent, growing up in the USSR, with basically him right now basically securing his position as a leader of the country until 2036, not 26, 36.
Mm-hmm.
By because there were some changes in the law. He might have like a big dream of a former Soviet influence now under the rule of Russia, and we can see that he has a big support from the, as we call him here, the last dictator in Europe, in Belarus. Big supporter. We saw what was happening recently in Kazakhstan with there were some protests going on, and who came first immediately? It was the Russians, and of course now with Ukraine, where basically we're talking about the situation that is like, is there going to be a war? That's the question that we everybody's asking right now. But when
Yeah.
you think about it, there is an ongoing war since 2014, since Crimea and the Donbas area,
Yeah.
where basically through some tricky referendums and then through a military conflict annexed to Russia. So the conflict is still there, but the situation in Ukraine is completely different right now, because in 2014, basically the government from 2014 was completely in disarray, huge corruption, very little investment in the military. Basically, they didn't have a working military in 2014, with under 1% of GDP investing into basically their protection, which means military. And right now, 8 years later, they are investing 4 to 5% of their GDP in military and basically the army. So if there should be something like the blitzkrieg that you mentioned, yeah, is it going to be, is Ukraine going to be next Poland? I don't necessarily think so, because right now there would be certain certain resistance coming from Ukraine, which 8 years ago wouldn't be the thing. Right now, it's going to be. If there's something should happen, but I still think it's not going to happen.
Okay. Fair enough. Loki, your thoughts?
Just remember, you asked for this.
I remember.
Right now, the United States is in dire need of leadership. You have got an old petrified Bart that gets out of bed every morning going, "Who took my oatmeal? Why hasn't someone changed my diaper? I need my Cabbage Patch doll that I sleep with. Who are you? I don't know you, sir. I'm your Secretary of Defense. Bullshit. I don't know you. You've never been here before. Get out of my condo." When he's in the White House, I mean, it's like there's no leadership in the United States right now. Yes, you have generals, but at the top is a geriatric old buck that has absolutely no idea what he is doing. Just look at the troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. Look how backwards and fucked that went.
Yep.
We are not in no way, shape, or form ready for anything to happen, and Putin knows that. Putin knows the diaper guy's going to stop me. I don't think so. And he can run roughshod over what he wants. What he's got to deal with is the UN. And if the U.S. isn't leading the United Nations and isn't part of that, of the ally movement, well, guess what? It's going to be difficult. I'm not saying it can't happen without the United States. I'm just saying you kind of need it. And you need that leadership. And it's not there. So whereas Joseph talks about, Putin's mindset, I'm going to tell you America's mindset, and there's already people going, we don't need to be involved in this. We don't need to have anything to do with this. And that echoes to the 1930s.
Yes.
That echoes to Poland. that echoes to what was going on in Europe at the time. Is people sitting there going, we don't need to have anything to do with this. We don't need to be involved in this. We don't want anything to do with this. And when the world turns its back on the rest of the world, that's when you get a world war.
Yes. And to now I'm going to come at this in a different view, which probably will get me, red listed, but I don't care. Here's my look, and I was telling Joseph about this before. I look at this from another perspective. One, I'm Canadian, so it's a little different. Our prime minister isn't much better, but at any rate, I look at it like this. Right now, we have a situation where the world's, or at least the major population's viewpoint, is focused on a global pandemic, we'll call it. And they're getting pushback a lot. And what I fear happening is there is nothing more scary than a politician being able to use the sleight of hand. That being, look over here and forget what this hand is doing. And to me, this is an opportunity to shift the focus of the population from one problem to another. And in history, that has been done many, many times. It's kind of trademark humanity. And I'm not exactly sure that we should be dismissive, because that's our first instinct, is to be dismissive. Oh, well, it's not going to happen. Okay, that's always good. But I really think we need to be a little bit more vigilant and make sure that it doesn't happen. Because as Loki so pointed out, the world right now is in recovery from one calamity. I can speak English, I promise. We don't need another. And I also fear that this is being used as a scapegoat. Change the modern view, change the conversation, put it towards the big bad. During the Cold War, that happened a lot. Politicians wanted to get something through, while all of a sudden they were worried that the Russia had 15 bombers they never had, but according to us, they had them, so we had to change the focus. And especially near the end of the Cold War, we were ramping people up. Children in schools were still doing the bomb drills. No, Russia had no real capability of doing so because we were falling apart from the inside. But that wasn't what was being told to us, which is why, again, I wanted Joseph on the panel, because, again, a lot of our knowledge of that situation is very one-sided in the telling of the story. I also know that there happens to be there's a lot of moving parts. And my personal feeling is the Ukraine is really not the issue. Ukraine is being used as a do what we want or else kind of situation. Putin has, expressed, Russian government has expressed they want the NATO lines, and they always wanted the NATO lines pushed back a little bit further to give themselves a buffering zone, because NATO does pose a giant threat to anything that they want to do. And their influence, they need a little, they would like it very much to be a little broader. So these little shows of force are ways of getting people to a bargaining table a lot of the times. And what's being said at the bargaining table, we'll probably never know the full extent. So I think we need to be vigilant, and I think we need to really talk about this, but at the same time, not allow it to become um, a vehicle of distraction, if that makes any sense. So we've kind of covered. Do I think that this will be World War III? I don't think so. Um, I just don't. I don't think it benefits Russia if they were to throw down the gauntlet, because throwing down the gauntlet, there's always a risk. There is a risk that the bluff is called and the other side drops a straight flush, and you are holding a pair, which is never a good thing. So I think where I'd like to go is, Joseph, what we're told. What does modern Ukraine look like now
I
compared
have
to 2014?
and here it is. Here it is. First of all, before remember the question, I will go definitely back to that because I have an opinion and an answer to that one. But I wanted to go back to what Loki said about the current leadership of the United States, which, as I mentioned before we started even the stream, that the United States isn't very beloved in terms of being the world police.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, you see it right now that the United States, and it started with Trump, basically that the slogan "America First" that came basically meant that, okay, we don't want to be the world police anymore, not necessary and not at every occasion. And why there was no conflict, and this is my opinion, between Russia and the United States during the Trump administration, was basically, and if I say something that somebody doesn't like, I'm European.
It's kind of a birthright.
is is same as Trump. So Putin, both are narcissists, and they were stroking each other egos throughout
Mm-hmm.
the years. And this is one of the main things where there was no conflict. And what Loki said in his opening statement is basically, yes, this is what probably Putin sees right now, is the weak White House at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, and I can tell you, there was not much love for the Trump administration in Europe. And definitely there was like a cheer. There were cheers when Biden took over the office, because it looked like the international politics will once again get better, the relationships between all the countries, especially Western Europe or the European Union and all the countries. But the problem is, I'm not sure it's happening. And there are some people like seeing in Biden that Biden isn't very strong president at this stage. And if I became like in this moment a U.S. citizen, and you gave me the choice to go for the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, I wouldn't go either way. So I have no horses in that game, in that race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking at it as I see it from my helicopter view, from my perspective here in Europe. And back to your question, very quickly, so that Loki has as well the possibility to talk, how I see the situation in Ukraine right now. They had after basically 2014 And after the demonstrations and after the basically change of government and everything that happened after that period, Ukraine was corrupted, and I mean corruption on every single level.
Okay.
Like the judicial system, the government. You couldn't get basically your car checked, like when you need like the seal that your car is able to drive on roads without basically giving somebody some bribes. You know,
Hmm.
uh, nothing worked there, and this is slightly changing. And the situation basically is way better, especially in the judicial system, and everything in the government is changing. But the reforms to become basically a fully Western country, like Western-like country, is going very slow, and it will take them a very long time at this moment, but they are on the way of getting better. By the way, Ukraine is the least concerned country about this whole conflict, from what I see here. And why I know the situation, how the situation in Ukraine is right now, because our former Minister of Finance, who was in our basically in our government until 2012, is right now uh, working as an economic advisor for the Ukrainian government.
Okay.
So he has, and I watched an interview with him, a 40-minute interview with him, basically today in the morning. The interview was from 2 days ago, since I knew that I'm coming on this panel. So I wanted to bring myself up to speed about the situation in Ukraine. So. Um, this is the one thing. By the way, the one when Putin came with the things that he wanted to do, like what the changes, the list of things that he wanted to bring to the table. One of those things was like he wants the NATO go back to the situation prior 1997,
Yeah.
which is, but you know what, it's like one of those, like I give you like 10 points, and this is one of the things that will be definitely like negotiable, and it will go away. But
Yeah.
it, you need to have something ridiculous in your demands so that you can say, okay, I'm giving up on this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I remember from when I used to be a shop steward, and we would go to the bargaining table.
yes, exactly, so this is one
There's
of the
there's always
bargaining
about four of
points.
them that are just that we're never getting that, but we're putting it down so that we can show conceit that we conceded
Yes, and
something
this
to
is
get
exactly
something
one of those
else.
points.
Yeah.
This is exactly one of those points, and because Russia doesn't want NATO to basically grow bigger, and especially towards Ukraine. Because when you look at Russia as the largest country in the world, basically you have only in the eastern part of in the western part of Russia, where they border on the Latvia, Estonia, and all those countries, you have their NATO presence,
Yeah.
which is only something like 7% of their whole borderline of Russia. Yeah, something like 7%. But when you look at how big Ukraine is and goes through the southern part of the border with Russia, it would definitely be way more. But the good thing is, it's not even on the negotiation table that Ukraine should become a NATO member.
Yeah.
It's not even on the table at this moment, not at all.
And Loki, we'll give you time to talk.
I don't think that America needs to be a police force for the world. You know, Joseph brought that up. That's the last thing I think America needs to do, is be the police force for the world. I think if you're an ally and you're like, hey, we need some help, yeah, we will be there. We don't need to have like gender study shops opening up in Afghanistan. That makes absolutely no sense. Why are we paying $200 million a year to have a gender study class open up in Afghanistan? That makes absolutely no sense. If the United States is not welcome somewhere, then they can fuck off. We'll go. See ya. Bye. That's that. If you're like, we don't want you around here, we don't need you around here, okay, well, you know, next time you have an issue and you need some help, don't ask us. It's
Yeah.
that simple as that. I think that be countries that have always had a good relationship with the United States. Yes, if something happens, we are there. We will help. I mean, we're a huge damn country. It's the last thing we can do. You know, you see GoFundMe's up all the time for all kinds of shit. Okay, it's as simple as that. Hey, we need some help. The whole country comes together and goes, yeah, we'll throw a penny. You know, if every American throws a penny in on their taxes, guess what? You've just helped the country.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can help. We can fight. But God, you know what? You know, and this is my problem. This is the problem I have with it. And Joseph brought this up. A lot of countries were like, screw America when Trump was there saying America comes first. And you know what? How many countries out there are going us first? We need to worry about us first. China, the Russia. How many big countries are always saying we come first?
Yeah.
We're looking for us first.
No.
And someone said it out loud and everybody hated it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't blame him for that. I don't blame him for saying, you know what? When it comes to us first. We need to worry about our shit and stop worrying about everybody else's shit. We don't need to be the policeman of the world. We don't need to be the one laying down the rule book. We're not. Let the countries govern themselves. But if something happens, yeah, and it's our ally, yeah, we need to be there and we need to be backing them up and having their back. Definitely.
Well,
whether they're part of NATO or not.
Yeah.
If they're an ally of the United States, yes.
Yeah. Well, I look at it like if you look at Britain in the 30s, the problem Britain had was they were stretched so thin because they had to worry about the Baltic, they had to worry about their holdings in Africa, they had to worry about et cetera, Pacific. They were stretched very thin. And I see that happening again, just different country has that name. Instead of Great Britain, put the United States in there. And that happened after World War II. But I think the other thing that really irks me and why, again, I wanted Joseph on here is we as Westerners tend to sit there and go, we know what's best for you. Please sit down. We'll tell you what's best for you. And then you just fall in line. Okay. And that happens a lot. But in regards to the Ukraine and the Ukrainian situation, I wonder, as the title says, how much of this is just smoke and mirrors, and how much of this is actual, if boots move, our boots move. And it's really hard to say because we're almost at a perfect storm. And the reason I say that is this. As Loki so pointed out, the leadership in the United States is viewed upon as weak. Whether it is or not, you can argue that till the cows come home. I'm not going to sit there and do that because I have no dog in the pony show. I have enough worries to deal with the NDP, the Conservatives, the Bloc Québécois, and the Liberals. But anyway, I have enough worries to worry about. I don't need to worry about Republican and Democrat. But here's the situation. Loki, how long till midterms?
We've got just a couple of months, I think. Okay. Just a couple of months midterms, and then we'll have elections in 2 years. So. All
right. So now the United States is famous for having 4-year elections. I mean, but the midterms are coming up. Right now, the Democrats have both the Senate and the House. I have a feeling this is going to be one of those situations where it is used as a political tool to retake the House and the Senate.
Oh, they don't even need that for that.
No, right, they don't need it, but I think it's one way to avoid another topic.
Okay. right now, the thing in the US right now, as far as politics goes, is yes, there's going to be a wave. There's going to be a red wave, and basically the Democrats are backpedaling because of optics, mainly optics on the president and the vice president. Right now, you've got two people in office. One of them won't make a statement. The other makes all kinds of insane statements that make no sense. Hey, pretty lady, how are you? Let me smell your hair.
Yeah.
Goodness. And you're like, who the fuck do we have running things here?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what side you're on. And they have made it very much sided, as you brought up. They have made it very much sided, especially with the things going on with the coup and getting the poke and the jab. They have made it very, very sided. They have made it very, very race sided. These are the people that are saying we all need to get along and huddle together and be one with everybody. And they're the ones making division. And people are seeing that finally. People have, it has slowed down enough. Everyday life has slowed down enough in the United States because of this madness of getting jabbed, that people have finally started going, you know what? They're kind of the ones stirring up the shit. They're kind of the ones shaking up the jar full of ants. So they kill each other. And more people are waking up to the fact that, well, maybe we made a mistake. Diaper Boy isn't doing too well.
No. But see, what I'm worried about is, and it's happened before, is this being used as the distraction. And as a person who deals with history, and I have my own history channel, I look at things and I see patterns, and unfortunately I see scary patterns. And to me, I think it's a scary point for this to come up, because he's good. Whether he's a good leader, a bad leader, or an idiot is irrelevant. He's going to be pushed, and unfortunately, they're going to be pushed to do maybe not the brightest movers in the world. And I really think that could turn this from a cold situation to a hot one real quick. And we have to be vigilant, because it could definitely be used as a political leverage to gain votes or subtract votes, one or the other. And it then becomes no longer a mission for what's good for the Ukraine or Europe, for that matter, and it becomes what's good for us. What do we need? Well, we need a distraction so that we can get this law and this law and this law and this president voted in. And that can be scary. Also, we get situations where on a national stage, Canada has the same problem. We have a major thing that is going on right now in Canada, as much as our Prime Minister wants to downplay it. And he may need something to distract the rest of Canada with real quick. And this fits the bill. And right now, you see it in the press conferences. The conversation is being moved from what are you doing with this to what are you doing about Ukraine. It's slowly moving to where more and more in his public speaking, the spotlight is no longer on what laws they're bringing in or what mandates they're bringing in, but they're more interested in on the 120 million that we just sent over to the Ukraine, which was just approved, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And are there going to be boots on the ground? Which Canada has already said yes. We're going to send over training troops, somewhere in the tune of 400 boots on the ground.
You mean to Ukraine?
Yeah, Canada has already agreed
Really?
to do so.
Because what's happening right now with the NATO, NATO is right now talking to multiple countries here in this area, mainly Baltics, but Slovakia as well, obviously, since we are on the border, to send in the whole region something like 5,000 military personnel, like
Yeah,
5,000 people, which is, when you compare it to what the Russians have on the border, from what I heard, something like 127,000,
yeah,
compared to whatever we have right now in the bases, like in Germany, in Poland, in Slovakia. We don't have any US base, but not even a NATO base. There is only like airports that are dedicated. Uh, it's something like 22,000, maybe,
yeah,
all combined, you know. And the thing is, nobody is, no soldier with the NATO mandate will go to Ukraine. None of them, because Ukraine is not part of the NATO, and
yeah,
that would create immediate military conflict. That
yeah.
fact, if Canada is sending somebody, I'm not sure. Is it really? Are they really going to Ukraine?
That was the report that they were sending
Because
to
just
train
just
Ukrainian
just
the
when you
Ukrainian
yeah,
military.
uh, training the Ukrainian military doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to do the training in Ukraine. They can
Yeah,
go
they could
to
be pulling them out and then yeah,
pulling them out and go somewhere else, because it won't be a single foot on the NATO mandate.
yeah, because and that's why I wanted you here because what we're like I said, what we're told here and what actually happens on the ground are usually two different things because we're not made aware of the geopolitical situation there, um, and it's interesting to see how different things are to what's being reported and like uh, the Ukrainian military from 2014 till now, it's night and day, isn't it? That's what you
It's
were
it's
saying.
it's uh, it's two worlds, as I mentioned earlier in the stream. It's literally from something like, I think they had something like 6,000 men in 2014, which is, for the country of that size, it's basically like a farmer against the whole battalion, like
Yeah,
nothing. But as I mentioned, they invested a lot of money into the military. Plus, of course, they got the military contracts with many countries, so they are getting weapons, arms, rockets, everything, they are purchasing. So it would be a bloodbath, not like it was in 2014. And yeah, so it's not going to be very easy. I know that there are right now talks about that we will train, that we could deliver some training, and basically I mean NATO, could do some training to the Ukraine military, but definitely not in Ukraine. They,
yeah,
uh, they would have to take them out, bring to some NATO country, and do the training exercises somewhere in the area outside of Ukraine. That's the one thing. And very good point that I need to say that Ensign Ricky put into chat, and I would like to once again say hi to everybody who joined at a later stage the stream, because I see that the names are popping up. Ensign Ricky put here a comment: Germany is trying to stay out of it since they import their natural gas from Russia. Germany sent Ukraine 5,000 army helmets to help. Um, this is a partially factual statement. Germany is trying to stay out of it. Is 100% fact. Keep in mind, Merkel's era is over. There is a completely new government. They
Mm-hmm.
literally started like last month or something
Okay.
like that. So they have a completely new government, despite it goes in line with everything that Merkel set up, and basically they are on a continuous path. It's not like it would switch 180 degrees,
Yeah.
but they are trying to stay out of it. And what the natural gas that you are mentioning, Ricky, here is not only Germany. Basically, the Russian oil and gas are the biggest economical negotiation point coming from Russia, because they are basically supplying even us here, obviously, because the pipelines go from Russia through Ukraine to Slovakia, Czech Republic, Austria. Remember, it was in the James Bond movie with Living Daylights. The opening scene basically plays out on the border of Slovakia and Austria, and they are sending an agent from Slovakia to Austria, because it was the Iron Curtain then, through this pipeline basically. Which was a funny scene in that movie. But they are so this is one of those pipelines that is existing, and now there is a new one that was built from Russia to Germany to avoid Ukraine.
Okay.
It's called the Nord Stream pipeline that goes basically through Poland and to Germany. And right now, that's a big negotiation point, because Germany said we're not going to allow to open it, because it doesn't have right now all the paperwork done. So this
Mm-hmm.
is the only sanction that Germany is right now willing to put on Russia, because
Okay.
everybody is talking about sanctions to
Yes.
Russia. It's one of those negotiation points that are brought to the negotiation table, and this is the only thing that Germany is willing to put on the table, because otherwise Germany wants to stay out of it, because they have too many economical interests in Russia, including automotive, and which is the probably the biggest investment that they have there, and many other businesses that are run from Russia, and they don't want to lose that. So Germany is um, very neutral. They are trying to stay very neutral in this whole conflict, which is as well an interesting fact. But the military support, like the 5,000, so chunk of the 5,000 boots on the ground will be from Germany as well. So this is something completely different, because this is the NATO mandate and not Germany as
Yeah.
itself. So the German position is right now very interesting.
Yes. Yeah. Because they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard
Yeah.
place.
And
Uh,
by the way, when we're talking about the oil and gas, right now, for example, it's obviously winter, and when the storages for gas in Western Europe are by far not as full as they used to be for winters, before winters.
mm-hmm.
So uh, we had tankers coming from the United States delivering gas to Europe as well. Like 5 tankers or something were on the way from the United States. I think they already are in Europe. Uh, Russia is saying that it is their bargaining point here. But when you think about it, it's not like they would sell us it cheap. It's convenient,
Yeah.
because we are buying oil and gas and all the commodities for the same prices as they are put on the world exchange,
Yeah. On the market. Yeah.
on the market. So we are paying market prices. So it's not like Russia would uh, now that the Russia stopping oil and gas would somehow destroy the prices. It
Yeah.
would destroy the prices because it would go up, but it would go up globally, as it did
Yeah.
anyway. But it's the convenience. It's not about the price. It's about the convenience of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I mean, like when we sit here and we discuss things like that, it's crazy because we only look at it as like so many other things in the world or in history. We get narrowed in on one thing.
mhm.
Will, like for instance, will the Russians take their 100,000 troops and move them into Ukraine? But we stop, and if you pan back and you look, does it benefit them to do so in the long term? Probably not.
Probably not. And when you think about it, they are in terms of landmass, the largest country in the world.
Yeah.
But their economic strength is something like Italy, comparable to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad, not terrible.
No.
But sorry, not good, not terrible. But it's for such a huge country, it's definitely not enough. You
No.
know,
And they
they
found that out a long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
And
basically,
they've never stopped saying hi either. I want to tell you something. Back when I still got a newspaper, I don't know, Joseph, do you get newspapers still? Like actual newspapers you can hold in your hand? Because I never see those anymore. I get on my news on my phone. I never get to hold a newspaper anymore. But when I did, every single week, at least one day a week, you'd be at the back of the newspaper and you'd read two F-22s launched from Galena Air Base in Alaska intercept Russian bombers and escort them back to Soviet airspace. It would be buried in the back of the newspaper at least one day a week.
yes.
And the Russians only do that because they want to go, hello, we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still here and we're still relevant. And they want response times. If you don't think they are writing down exactly how long it takes those F-22s to intercept that bomber, you're crazy. They're keeping track of that every week. They want response times. They want to see if they're slowing. It's the gnat that is persistent. And that's very well what this could be is we're going to park 100,000 troops next to Ukraine, and we want to see what your response time is, bitches. We want to see who responds. We want to see how they respond, and we're writing it down in our little book. That way, next time, we know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly what it could be. It could be to all intents and purposes a global dick measuring contest, or to see who jumps.
And I miss newspapers.
Yes,
I do. I really do. I miss newspapers. I hate reading news on my phone. Anyway.
Yes. But and a lot of this is, like I said at the beginning in my opening statement, I'm wondering how much of this is sleight of hand to change the conversation, to direct sight elsewhere so that something else can happen. Yeah, go ahead.
I see that in the United States happening. Because from what I hear in the news, like what I'm reading on the internet, like the Washington Post, for example, or the Guardian, or other news outlets, or when I go to and watch some TV channels in terms of news, you are blowing it out of proportion extremely. The United States news is blowing it out of proportion to like breaking news. It's
Yeah.
continuous. So I can see that. Okay, we have the slide when you say like sleight of hand. There's the not well managed COVID situation. So let's focus on something different. But I don't know which one is a bigger disaster right now in terms of news. So that's another question.
Yeah.
And I mean disaster for the government at this moment. So this is the one thing, because here in Europe, actually, when we're talking about, and let's say I can talk about Slovakia easily in terms of the COVID situation. Uh, the government went nuts in over the last 2 years. Basically, like every single government in the world. It wasn't like in the United States or in Canada. Like you thought, like what they are doing, are they completely nuts with all the restrictions and lockdowns and everything? What happened?
Hmm.
Every single country had it the same. You're not unique.
Yeah.
Every government is crazy.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's only about the level of crazy
Yeah.
what went on right now. What I can tell you, what's happening in many European countries. Some of them are a little exception, like Austria, that they mandated like the vaccination completely, like you either get
Ireland.
vaccinated or you
Um.
will be fined. uh, but for example here, I have the feeling that the government like gave up. They
Yeah.
were like, they said, okay, people, okay, we give up. So right now, I can tell you that I'm not saying that the Ukraine conflict is not in the evening news, but it's the second or the third evening news.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
like
not the
the
lead story.
breaking news, like the leading
Yeah.
story of everything, because yeah, it is. And even today, when I listened today, it's almost 10 here, so at 7 I was watching the news, the evening news. And actually right now, Ukrainian president is going to the Kremlin for negotiations, for talks.
Yeah.
So there are representatives from the NATO invited to Moscow to talk, and even the foreign minister of foreign affairs of Russia said that they don't want to go into a military conflict. He
Yeah.
said it. So uh, from history, and you are covering history, we know when certain leaders in the past said that we're not going into a military conflict, everything was different the next day.
Yes.
But I don't think it's going to necessarily happen in the next week or two. I'm not saying the whole situation will de-escalate in the next week or two, but and it will be a sore point um, on the world map for a few more months. But uh, I honestly, I don't see. I don't. If Russia will get the assurance that there won't be military, that Ukraine will not become a part of the NATO.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that there won't be like additional sanctions put on Russia. Yeah, that it will calm down. That there
Yeah.
will be maybe two, three other points out of the list of the 10 points, as I mentioned. Yeah, it will be fulfilled, and it will calm down. I'm not saying it will go away. Definitely
No.
not, because as I mentioned in the beginning, since the Crimea incident, basically, uh, the war is ongoing. Basically, it's
Yeah.
basically a constant military conflict in that area. So
Now,
yeah.
and I'm not saying this would ever happen, but just hypothetically, um, would your would your opinion of it change to uh, something's about to happen, batten down the hatches, if all of a sudden the Ukraine tomorrow announced, by the way, we have applied for membership of NATO?
No, because you can apply, but you won't be accepted.
Okay.
Yeah,
No, but what I
it's like it. Yeah.
okay, let me rephrase
Uh,
that. If NATO all of a sudden announced within the next week, due to Russian threats, we are fast tracking their application, and they are being brought into
That
NATO.
it would.
How
I don't know
fast
how
do you
much
think
I
those
can.
tanks would
I don't
roll?
know how much I can swear, but
Is my question.
it would be a instant shitstorm, like
Instant
immediate.
shitstorm. That's what I thought.
Instant shitstorm. And you know what? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen simply because when you think about it, NATO is not an organization that is seeking out conflicts.
No.
There were very little interventions from the NATO that were offensive, not defensive. And in many cases, I think in every single instance since NATO was created, every single offense that was taken from the side of NATO was heavily criticized. So they are, and when you think about it, when you 2 years ago it was Macron, the French president, who said NATO is a brain dead organization. That NATO is dead, and there were talks at the time about, and they started talking about something like European military force, some type of NATO for Europe, because US. How much can we rely on the US, and we don't like US and whatsoever,
Yeah.
Once again, think back, Trump era and America first. How can we rely on the United States when somebody said America first, being the biggest, like the biggest member of the NATO, the United States. And they started talking about something like European military, which when you remember, I called it a wet dream of the European leaders in our chat when we were chatting, because it's not going to happen, at least not in the next decade. But I can tell you one thing: if something like that happened, it would be probably a little bit scarier than the NATO itself for Russia, because NATO is now worldwide.
Yeah.
This would be Europe. So Europe for Europeans, and protect Europe. And that would be probably like, okay, they are now focusing more on us as a Russians, Putin would say. So this would be probably a bigger threat for Russia than the NATO itself. So
there's less voices going, well, we don't really need to worry about that. Let's back away from that. Whereas if it was European, to steal a phrase, European first, it would be very different. Well, I think what we'll do is we'll go around. I'll start with Loki. We'll go to Joseph, and then to me for final thoughts. Loki, you can lead us off here. Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm here. No, I'm sitting here talking to myself because I had my mic muted. Like I said before, I really think that a lot of this is, let's see what they can do. And they sit there with their watch and they watch. They watch and they wait, and they're like, okay, how long is it going to take the U.S. to do this? How long is it going to take to NATO to do this? How long is it going to take to, how far can we get before anybody's ready to stop us? Because it's not just Ukraine, it's everything. Like you said, if this is a jumping off point to taking over, then what they're doing is they've got their computers going, they've got their military experts standing there, and they're going, how far could we have gotten if we would have just invaded instead of parking our asses at the border and waiting? How far could we have gotten? We got our troops out there, everybody's doing everything. Tell me how far we're going to get.
Yeah.
And they're waiting to see how far they're going to get before anybody can measure a response, especially now with everything the way it's going right now. This is the time to do something, because right now everybody's limping. Everyone's limping around. Everyone's hurting. It's very much, as you stated, like the Depression in the 30s.
Yeah,
that's what hurt everybody. Everybody was hurting. There were people that were starving, children that were starving, not just in the world, but in the U.S. Everybody Everybody was hurting. And Germany did something radical. They said, you know what? Let's see how far we can get. And we saw how far they could get in World War II. They got pretty damn far. And it was only by the skin of some teeth that they didn't take everything. So I really think that is what's going on here. They're standing there, they're watching the clock, and they're saying, how far can we get?
Yeah.
And that is very Putin of them to do. Because Putin loves doing that. Putin loves sending in the bombers. Putin loves making a show of everything and going, look, guess what? We're still here.
Yeah.
You may think it's over, but we don't think it's over. The war, the trial never ended. Oh, that's something else. My bad. Sorry. The trial never ended, Captain. Oh, yeah, it's something else. It's Putin sitting there going, guess what? It hasn't ended for us.
Yeah.
Might have ended for you, but it hasn't ended for us. That's pretty much, that's it. That's all I got to say.
All right, Joseph, final.
I'm just trying to reply here to Ensign Ricky about the question of Crimea that he had here. So I put there basically he asked about about that the people from Crimea that they wanted to become Russian or being part of Russia. It was like a referendum that was probably manipulated. Nobody knows, and nobody will tell you. It's one of those things where basically they said, yeah, why not? We would like to be a part of Russia because it's a mixed population there. But I'm trying to put there a similar situation. Just let's say you would ask all the I hope saying Latinos, it's not a problem.
No,
Latinos living in Mexico. Would you like to be? Would you love to see Mexico, Texas becoming a part of Mexico? And everybody would say yes. So Mexico would just send the military and say, okay, let's take Texas because they would like to be here. You know, it's basically crossing attacking borders of another country. So it's still very controversial, and it's not going to be solved easily. It's very politically incorrect when I'm saying Crimea will never go back to Ukraine. It will stay Russian. Yeah, everybody has the feeling, that one day it might return. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the coming decades.
That ship has sailed, yeah.
That ship has sailed, but it's not going to repeat, I don't think. So, and once again, my final words are everything that you heard here today, everything that I said, were really my thoughts about it. It was how I see the situation. I try to be as objective as I can. And if I said something that you don't agree with me, you can contact me on Twitter under the Random Menace, and we can talk about it as well. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. So my final words on this is be vigilant. I think I agree with Loki and Joseph. I don't think we're at the brink of war, but you never know. And this world right now is unstable. And when the world is unstable, crazy shit happens. Things we thought would never happen. So don't panic, but stay vigilant is what I would say.
Well said.
And quick little self broadcast. Tomorrow I will be having another special live stream because I like to piss off YouTube. At 4:00 Central, Loki will be rejoining me, hopefully, if the internet and the world works. And a couple of other members of the Valhalla Nation will be joining us, and we're going to talk Freedom Convoy. So yeah, YouTube can buckle up and brace themselves because I've gone complete loco because I'm in pain and I want to piss things off. So we're going to piss off YouTube once again, and we're going to reconvene at 4:00 tomorrow. and we're going to talk a little bit about trucking, a little bit about what the truckers here in Canada and around the world lately have been doing. And we're going to have a few truckers, a few ex-truckers, Loki on the panel, and we're going to have some fun.
Come,
So,
boy.
till then, thank you, and take her easy, folks. Till tomorrow, take her easy.